I think drag is one way that if you're not sure about what gender you want to be, definitely try drag. I mean, you'll definitely get to learn a lot more about yourself and in a lot of amazing ways.
Hi, my name is Mateo Miller, member of the True Kids One Youth Council. Gender equality is one of the biggest issues that we have in society right now in 2025. So I went out and I asked people here in our community about gender equality. How would you want gender equality to stand the test of time?
Gender equality over time, I feel like everyone should be accepted, and it shouldn't be seen as something that is wrong. It should be something that is like, oh, those are your pronouns. Hi, it's nice to meet you. It's not like, oh, really?
As a trans woman, I got all the way through graduate school and a PhD while pretending to be a man. And that had certain advantages. I didn't have assumptions made about my ability. On the other hand, I spent a long time feeling really miserable and not comfortable in my own skin, and I wasn't sure how to interact with anybody. When I began teaching, I was still presenting as a man, and I was always Professor Long or Dr. Long, and I never got Mr. Long. And when I transitioned, I started getting some students addressing me as Mrs. Long. There was the assumption that I was not as well qualified as other men in the same position. I think there's work to do on reaching gender equity rather than formal gender equality.
What changes would you like to see in society that advocates for gender equity?
I would definitely like to see more people fighting for trans rights. You know, that's definitely, like, out of drag, I am a trans woman, so it's very important for me to see trans people, like, come together and build that, like, that sense of hope for each other, you know? We have to get people to advocate for us because we can't just be the only ones speaking about it.
From some of my younger students that I'm teaching, I'm seeing a thread to going back to a conservative way of thinking. This idea of lost masculinity and wanting to go back to that and make America healthy again. There's this assumption that everybody young is liberal and open-minded and, you know, questioning gender and everybody's equal, but I'm seeing a very different story on a lot of the sides of some of my young students. So making assumptions about what young people are going to do or say or think or feel is very dangerous. But I think with a lot of the younger generation, there will be less binary and less adherence to strict gender roles. But then seeing it go the other way too, that's the thing with the pendulum. It goes
Both ways. How do you imagine gender equality has evolved in the past decade, and what shifts culturally and personally have you experienced?
Gender really goes on two tracks. There's a political track, and then there's a cultural track. Politically, in the last 100 years, there's been a lot of positive movements, particularly for women in terms of their civil rights, their freedom to work, earn money, marry, divorce, all those kinds of things. You can change a law, but if you don't change the culture or the way people perceive men and women, they will live out of those presuppositions or their what they believe is intuitive. And I think that's what's pushed back some of the political gains, is that there's this cultural push against what people would say is make men and women the same. Well, men and women are not the same, but you can be different and still be equal. Equal in humanity, equal in rights, equal in talents and abilities.
If patriarchy simply means institutionalized male dominance, a system in which men hold power and use that power to their own advantage, often over women, do we still live in a patriarchal society? Well, I look at patriarchal norms, the way that men still have a sense of entitlement, the way that women are often assumed to be second to men in all sorts of relationships. I look at who holds power in both governmental and private organizations, who controls wealth and power in this country overwhelmingly. And perhaps most essentially, are girls and women at risk of male violence? The radical feminist critique always focuses on that reality of men's violence against women. Of course, men are violent against each other too. That's also a part of patriarchy. But the feminist critique demands that we look at that question of sexuality, of men's use of force, domination, coercion against women. And I think that's still woven into the fabric of everyday life in the United States, as well as many other societies. Now, of course, if we're going to say the United States is a patriarchal society, it doesn't mean it looks like other patriarchal societies. You can compare the US and Saudi Arabia and see great differences, of course. It's not to say everywhere in the world is the same. It's to say if we're going to be honest about the way our society is structured and the way girls and women remain at risk, we have to, I think, conclude it's a patriarchal world still.